Hi. What I've been doing with ePortfolio is pretty different from what most of you all have been doing with ePortfolio, and I think it's useful to have a little bit of background about why it is I chose to enter the realm of the ePortfolio. I had a portfolio review in the graphic design major in the Department of Art and Design at UWM, and depending on how you count, at any given time we've got between 150 majors and 300 majors, and there's 3 faculty members. So doing these portfolio reviews has always been just one of those things that you dread with your heart, that you know is coming up, and it's going to be awful. And the way we used to do it was to devote 2 weeks at the end of the spring semester, and students would drop off these really big, heavy portfolios in a space that was not designed for the purpose. And then my 2 colleagues and I would basically live on campus for 2 weeks, looking at all of this work and make the decision about who was going to be able to progress to the next level. And so you had the sort of double stress of having to lug portfolios around and spend between a half an hour and 45 minutes evaluating each one in 2 weeks, and then knowing that the decision you made was either going to elevate or crush the spirit of a student who had worked really hard to get to that place. So what we decided to do instead was to have a day where students would come and install their work, and we would be able to look at it and make the decision as a group together in a shorter period of time. And when we made this decision, we were only getting about 50 or so students applying to the program in the spring semester. And in the intervening time, suddenly 100 people were ready to apply, and I just knew that we were not going to have a meaningful portfolio review experience in one day with 3 faculty members and 100 students. So I panicked and contacted Matt at the Learning Technology Center about what I could possibly do, thinking that he would know of some third-party integrated portfolio management systems that we could use, and I got the happiest news of my life, which was that D2L had one, and that it was going to be more than just a way for students to submit a digital portfolio to augment the day, but also that I was going to be able to use this environment to communicate with these students, because these students were distributed across the curriculum. They weren't in my class necessarily or in my colleagues' classes. They were getting their requirements in order and sort of checking off the check boxes for the things that they needed to do. And we had to be able to communicate with them effectively, and we also needed to be able to see the digital portfolios that they put together that was going to allow us to kind of pre-screen in a more thoughtful way what we were eventually going to see. So we knew that in one day we were going to see about 1,500 projects, but we were also going to be able to preview their work and see their transcripts and read statements that they'd written, so that when we went in, we could like really surgically go to the things that we needed to see and be able to take that information to add to our evaluations from the ePortfolio and make really good decisions about who is going to go on to the next level and who is not. So these are a couple of photos that students took during the day, and I don't know what I was thinking. I just didn't even think to bring my camera. I think I was just so nervous about this first review that, I was just like, getting all my ducks in a row, and one of those ducks was not my camera. So they took these pictures, and it was actually a really wonderful day, because the students don't necessarily see the work of their peers in the program. So they all came and they were so excited and nervous, and putting all their stuff up and knowing that it was a really big day for them, but having all of these other people around them, I think, provided sort of a forum for them to, kind of give each other support and think about, kind of how they fit into this larger community that was, going to be their, kind of their peer group for the next few years. So I'll just kind of clip through these really fast. And it was actually really awesome for us, too, because, I'd seen a lot of this work already, but it was just like, whoa, this kind of transcends the digital. And that's kind of the second thing about the ePortfolio, particularly with this kind of evaluative process, is that sometimes seeing the object is really, really necessary, but I didn't need to contemplate that object for 5 or 10 or 15 minutes because I was already familiar with some of its major points. Instead, I could really look at the things that I could not determine from seeing, the sort of flattened out and homogenized image on screen. So the students put together their ePortfolio 2 weeks before the portfolio review happened, and the reason for that really was a lot of them were still finishing up their work. So if they'd already finished their requirements, they could put their ePortfolio together sooner, but we didn't think it was fair for some people to be able to submit, an entire semester in advance, and others would only have 2 weeks. So we just had this deadline. They got it all up, and if they needed to update, they could, but the bare bones had to be there because we had to start the review process. And that included, lots of things that we had to read, because part of what we need to know was firstly why they wanted to be in graphic design, what did they know about it, what are they bringing to it, but also how do they write about the way they solve problems in their coursework up to that point, because that's a really important evaluative criterion for the whole review, is how they are thinking about their work and how they are communicating their ideas both visually and in writing, and that I think was a really great thing to have integrated into the portfolio. Matt really helped me with this. You can see I'm the neutral environment person, and I really wanted a neutral environment for this because we did not want to be distracted by anything that the ePortfolio team might be contributing to what we were evaluating. And the last thing that I wanted to do was to say, oh Lord, look at that awful theme the student picked, X, not accepting this person. So it was just better for everybody that it was super neutral. So Matt really helps me and my prejudices to get things super neutral and get the giant banners out of there, because when I scroll I get cranky, and I know if I was looking at 100 ePortfolios and I was scrolling for every image on every ePortfolio, I would be super grumpy by the end of the day. So we got it so it worked for me, and I knew that I was happy, and that meant that the portfolio would go well. Also, because the students were distributed across the curriculum, it was really hard to know who needed to be part of this site. So, we pretty much, spam emailed everybody in the art department, and I, looked at all of the courses that had students that could potentially be in this, and thank goodness for D2L, because then I could actually email those people through the D2L emailing system and make sure that they all signed up for this ePortfolio. We're going to do it smarter this year, and I'll be contacting you about that soon. But it worked okay. So everybody got on, except for like 2 or 3. It's like, where have you been, people? That finally kind of clued in that there was something going on, but it all worked out fine. Again, because I'm a super control person, all of the students were given a handout that said, this is how big your pictures are going to be. This many pixels wide max, this many pixels tall max, because if I scroll I'm grumpy, and they have to be JPEGs or GIFs, otherwise ePortfolio will just do this to you. And that you have to include things that they've already been doing in their courses, which is to be able to summarize the project's objectives so we knew what it was the project was supposed to do, and then the design rationale that they would have already written, because that's just part of the design curriculum. They have to do those things because we think it's really important that they know what they're doing when they're solving a problem and why they've solved the problem the way they chose to solve it. Everybody's solving the same problem, but all of the solutions are different, and they need to be thinking about the decisions they make and what those decisions communicate to other people. We had kind of 2 sections of the image portfolio. One was the graphic design courses that everybody had to take, and we were all very familiar with what those projects were, and we knew what they looked like. So we knew that essentially we were looking at the same, 10 projects, but with about 100 people responding to it. And this is kind of an example of these sorts of things. So we were familiar with what the projects were, and this is just a screenshot, so I can't scroll down. But we then would have the students writing about what these were and identifying who taught their course, so that the kind of variables in their experience were things that we knew about. So we knew when they took it, who taught it, and all of those things. So this is just like pretty standard intro design stuff. Then they also had the opportunity to put in some optional work from other studio courses if they'd had the opportunity to take some. Some of these students were like totally on track, and they actually were literally second semester sophomores, but a lot of them, including transfer students, and we do get a lot of those, were, had a gazillion credits already, and they were probably seniors already in terms of their credit load, but they were sophomores in our program. So we knew that there were many, many opportunities for us to see work that was coming from different places, and we wanted the portfolio to be a place where we could see the things they were doing across curriculum and potentially from other campuses or professional experiences or whatever it was. It was optional so that students who didn't have those things didn't feel that they were going to be downgraded in some way. But it really gave us a good view into their creative motivations. Also, lots of students wanted to show us things that we knew they weren't going to be able to carry in on campus and put in a room filled top to bottom with work. I didn't want to be responsible for kicking someone's sculpture over and breaking it. So if there were things that they couldn't bring, this was a great place for us to see them. So, we've got, a full, kind of a full-on studio art major as well. So students could bring in things they did in intro metals. This is a really nice piece a student did. And I didn't know really hardly any of these students, so it was really a great window into the stuff that they were thinking about. And this is another student doing stuff for digital photography. Here's someone in an intro painting course. Another person in art metals. We've got a really great art metals program, and students do great work, so they like to show it off when they have a chance. And then another digital photography project, ceramic sculpture. This is the kind of thing I love to be able to see evidence of, but I don't want to see it in a review with students running all over the place and sloshing coffee and otherwise in sort of full-on panic mode. So, we've got, a full, kind of a full-on studio art major as well. So students could bring in things they did in intro metals. This is a really nice piece a student did. And I didn't know really hardly any of these students, so it was really a great window into the stuff that they were thinking about. And this is another student doing stuff for digital photography. Here's someone in an intro painting course. Another person in art metals. We've got a really great art metals program, and students do great work, so they like to show it off when they have a chance. And then another digital photography project, ceramic sculpture. This is the kind of thing I love to be able to see evidence of, but I don't want to see it in a review with students running all over the place and sloshing coffee and otherwise in sort of full-on panic mode. Alex did a great job, and we need to know that about students, because designers just can't sit in a corner waiting for somebody to tell them what to do. They really have to put themselves forward and work proactively and anticipate all kinds of things. If they don't know how to edit and format digital images by this time, that's a huge red flag. So that was good to know. They're very nervous about their writing, and this is a good place for them to be thinking about writing things and making sure they're at least spelled properly and somewhat grammatically correct. Pay attention to the red and green underlines in Word, that sort of thing, and be concise and clear and succinct. We wanted to know about their inventive problem-solving skills, and being able to see the work from outside the curriculum was really helpful, because I don't necessarily know what the project parameters are in a ceramics class or in the metals class or in the paintings class, and it really gives me a window into the curriculum as well as a window into their ability to solve those kinds of problems, as well as the problems I set in my graphic design classes. So that was really great. We also, want very much to know about their formal design skills, and we absolutely, saw that in the project solution. Their ability to research projects, their ability to, properly implement the design process, and some of that stuff, we also had to see on the day, but we got to see the beginnings of it there when we were reading their responses to the project solutions. We want to know how they're thinking about the ideas that come up when they have to solve a problem, and how they communicate them, and then particularly with the studio projects, their ability to experiment and engage different media. And I think a lot of our students think that graphic design is just sitting at a computer and knowing all the keyboard shortcuts for Illustrator, and that is just so not the case. So when they're out there engaging other media, and we know about it, then we can, ask them to engage those other media when they're solving problems for us, because that makes their problem so much richer, deeper, and profound, and have the potential to communicate in much more meaningful ways than if they're just thinking that it only happens because they're a software jockey. And this was really great.